This is a quick review of a new helicopter that I bought today. It's called a Syma S107G. Now before I go too far into this review, I'm doing it because a good friend of mine called James said, go and get one, Scott, you will love it. Now I've been flying model helicopters on and off for around 20 years. Over the last 4 years I've been flying them a lot, and as you can see, one of my latest helicopters here is quite different in comparison. In fact, there's no comparison at all really, but I have to say this helicopter costs £15 on Amazon. It comes ready to fly with a controller, a battery, a charger, and I've flown it indoors and I really had a lot of fun. I could not believe actually how good it is. So my friend was right. I just want to give him a little insight into what I thought of it and let him know how it compares to my other helicopters. So the first thing you'll notice, this helicopter has got contra-rotating main rotor blades. That means it's inherently incredibly stable. So if you put a small movement into the helicopter, say you tilt it forwards, as soon as you let go, the helicopter rights itself. Now that is completely opposite to real helicopters in real life and model helicopters like I fly. If you put a small movement into them, they immediately shoot off in that direction unless you correct it. And also, helicopters are inherently unstable. They will not just hang in midair. They will move off in one direction or another all the time, so you're constantly correcting them. However, this being contra-rotating, it kind of hangs underneath the rotor and corrects itself. So therefore, this control system only has 3 channels. You've got one to do up and down, one to do yaw, sort of tail rotor yaw, and one to effectively do pitch forward and back. Now every other helicopter, well not every other, but full size and the models that I fly have effectively 5 controls, but really they have 4 because the rotor speed and the pitch are combined into one channel. You then have, that's one channel, up and down effectively. You then have the same one forward and back. You also have right and left, but you also have tail. Now this one effectively is missing the right and the left roll. Doesn't have the roll like my other helicopters. So the controller has only three things you can do: forward and back, pitch forward, pitch back, and then right and left. The confusing thing is, James, on every other controller that I've got, this one, the tail left and right, is normally on the left hand stick. The left hand stick on nearly all model helicopters controls the tail rotor left and right. For some reason it's on this one, and you have no roll on this helicopter. So it's a little bit, when I first flew it, I had to get my head around it being a bit different. My normal controllers, which I have over here, this controller, as you can see, you have up and down on the left, which is the same, but on this one you also have left and right tail rotor, so that yaws the helicopter that way. So this one is effectively the same as the other stick on the other controller. So on this stick, on this one, we have the forward and back, which is the same, but then we also have left and right, which gives you a rolling motion. So on this one, effectively, you have all 4. Now, compared to flying this one, this is a lot more stable, but I have to say there's absolutely no worry of crashing this thing. It's so stable, it's such good fun that I think this could be a present that I'll be buying for quite a few of my family members this Christmas. I'll just show you now a little bit on the simulator to show you the difference in controls I have on my other helicopters. Okay, here we have the simulator. So this is showing you on the right hand side there, you've got a graphic showing the input that I'm putting on the controller I've got in my hands. So on the left hand stick, which is the throttle, you've also got left and right, which does the same as the right hand stick on the other helicopter. But on this one, on the right hand stick here, left and right gives you a roll, forward and back is the same. So if I just spin the helicopter up to speed with the throttle. Okay, here we go. So the main difference here is if I just go straight up, the helicopter will start to drift off to a side. So immediately I've got to correct it and bring it back. Okay, very, very small. If you look at the stick movements, I'm doing very small movements. And to hover the helicopter stationary, especially on the simulator, is very, very difficult. So as you can see, I'm putting in very, very small movements just to keep it stationary. Now the big difference here with the other one, the Syma helicopter, obviously you can go forward and you can bring it back, and you can do forward and then you can give it a little bit of rotation like that, you see. Now the main difference with this one is that you have full left, right, forward and back on the main rotor. So one thing you can't do on that small helicopter is from a hover, if I can make it hover, right, from a hover you can't go right like that. You can't bring it back laterally. Okay? That's the main difference. Of course, this helicopter has what they call collective pitch. It's not a fixed pitch. So the blades can go from where they are now, which is positive pitch, so it gets lift upwards. If I bring them to 0, it just sits on the floor. But if I go negative, you can't really see it, but it's now forcing itself into the ground. So the lift is actually going into the ground. You can see the smoke going up now. So what that means is, with these helicopters, you can effectively go upside down. So if I just do a quick flip here, and then you can hover it upside down, you see. And this is where the fun begins, because when it's upside down, a lot of controls, well, some controls are reversed, others aren't. The tail rotor reverses, the elevator reverses, but the aileron doesn't when you're in forward flight. So, you know, this is where you can start then flying the helicopter upside down around, which obviously is a bit of a mind bend to begin with, but it's a good challenge and it gets you thinking, and I love it, to be honest. And then obviously the other thing you can do is backwards inverted. Again, that reverses some other controls, but not. Each orientation, they call it, has different controls reversed. So that's backwards inverted. Backwards upright, like that, again, is different again. So effectively, when you get into these big helicopters, you've got 4 modes of flight to master. You've got your normal, like this sort of forwards flight, where you do all your normal sort of nice big loops, that kind of thing. Then when you got that mastered, the next thing people often do is inverted, where they learn to go upside down and then do the same things, all the same things, but doing them inverted. Okay? I think the next thing probably people then do, what I did anyway, was learn how to fly backwards. I think it looks pretty cool for some reason. It's something a plane can't do, so I think it's pretty unique for helicopters. And then the hardest one I found was backwards inverted, because that's just does my head in a little bit. And then the skill to it then is to mix up all 4 orientations whilst doing sort of the same manoeuvres, and that it is very difficult because your brain has to switch from one thing to another thing quite quickly. However, I really like that. When I'm flying outside in real life with the helicopters, I do find that my mind switches off completely. I'm so focused on what I'm doing. Any thoughts or stresses or strains of everyday life disappear because you're so focused on what you're doing. And it's a real achievement when you get good. You do get adrenaline flowing because you've got this £1,000 or more piece of equipment in the air that you could crash in a second. So you are focused, and it is pretty cool. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'm probably boring you now, and I might just put a little bit of video of the 107G at the end of this short film. Alright, take care and see you soon.